What up, Buckeye Nation? Welcome to the Buckeye Boys. Excited to be here tonight, man. Excited to see everybody in the chat. Before we get this thing going too much, you guys know what to do. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We got a special guest on the night, man. So get them super chats rolling in. The super chats, they go to help good causes here in the Buckeye Boys channel and the Scoop channel as well. We're going to dive into it today. Julian Sayin, man, the season he's having, 85% adjusted completion percentage on the year. He's in the conversation with a lot of historic quarterbacks, a lot of first-round picks from the past. He's putting up similar and better stats in a lot of areas. Buckeyes offense, Buckeyes defense, moving right along. And who's going to stop this team right now? When we get into the playoffs, is there a team that can give these Buckeyes a little bit of pushback? We're going to dive into that tonight. Got to bring on my dude, Ian, man. You guys know him. Been here before. He's going to continue to be here. Ian, how you doing, bro? Ian, you're muted. You have muted yourself. You are still muted. Man, this thing was, hey, I'm telling you guys, before we came on here, it was working perfect. I could hear him great. I bet you hit the button on your mic again. I still can't hear you. Nope.
Still muted?
No, I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. Nah, I apologize for the mix-up. I'm glad to be on with you again, Dev. I appreciate the opportunity, man. And Buckeye Nation, we got a good one in store for y'all tonight. So again, thanks for having me, Dev. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, excited to dive into it. But told you we had a special guest, man. I've been real into PFF here lately for a while. Subscribed over to PFF. I'm real involved in trying to understand it more. And I've been noticing here lately what I see with my eyes matches up with PFF grades. We had Dalton on. Going to bring Max on as well, the other side of that show. If you guys haven't watched them, I'm telling you, get over there. They put out some really good content, and this year's a great year to watch them if you're a Buckeye fan because they love them some Buckeyes this year. Max, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing great. You know, I don't love the Buckeyes as a fan of Penn State, but I do love the Buckeyes as a fan of PFF because obviously you guys are having an incredible season this year, and it's looking more and more likely by the week that you guys might go back-to-back this year too.
Yeah, Max, it is. We were talking pre-show that, you know, coming into the season, you know, Penn State, Texas, those teams were in the conversation. A little bit of Ohio State, but not really, because there were a lot of questions that needed to be answered. I mean, even in Ohio State, the fans at Ohio State, including myself, was like, hey, we have the talent, but how's all this talent going to come together? Well, we see how it's coming together. Ryan Day, he's got something going pretty good. So we'll dive into a little bit of that. But before we do that, I know there's a lot of fans watching, a lot of people in the chat, and including myself. I want to know more about PFF. Everybody has different opinions on how much it actually matters and whatnot. So give us a little – I'm not one of those guys. I've fallen more in love with PFF because it matches what I watch, right? So just give us a little bit of a breakdown so we can have a little better understanding when you bring these PFF grades up on some of these Buckeye players we're about to talk about.
Yeah, so the one thing I always say with our grades is that they're never perfect, right? And I think that, you know, so many people think that we here at PFF think they're perfect, and they're always not. You know, it's really judging off tape, and it's not AI based or anything like that. You know, we have our guys, the highest trained guys that we have former coaches on our staff right now. We have former players on our staff right now that train up our graders to know exactly what they're looking for. Like I could not even grade games even if I wanted to, right? I need to go through a very extensive and lengthy process to even get allowed to even touch college football games or NFL games too. But what we do is we try to grade every single player in every single play, in every single game, which is obviously a very lengthy process. And we have a lot of guys trained up to do that, but only like about 15 to 20 guys that have final say over grades. So even though it sounds like, okay, you need so many employees to do that, a lot of them do that. But like the tracking stuff or like simple stats, the actual grading process is only done by very highly trained guys, like I said, by former coaches and players that we have on our staff too. So it's kind of based on a -2 to +2 scale. And what I mean by that is in 0.5 increments. So basically a +2 play is the best of the best play you can have. Like it's really like, think of like the best plays you've ever seen in football, right? That will get a +2. -2, conversely, is obviously awful, horrendous plays, like a horrendous pick six thrown by a quarterback. We haven't seen much from Julian Sayin this year on that front, but that would get a -2, -1.5, +1.5, outstanding plays, really bad plays, -1, +1, really good plays, and pretty bad plays. And then 0.5 and -0.5 are more like, okay, you're going above and beyond your job requirement. And -0.5 is you're doing a little bit less than what your job requires. And then a lot of plays, and actually most of the plays that we grade, get a 0, which is basically saying, did you do your job or not? Like, say, for example, if a quarterback completes a screen pass, even though he got a completion, and even that receiver runs for 80 yards and a touchdown, and it goes down as an 80-yard touchdown for the quarterback, it's still a 0 in our grading system because he just threw a screen pass, like, not far down the field at all, right? So it's a lot of going into that and trying to provide more context to stats rather than pure passing yards or interceptions or passing touchdowns or anything like that.
Yeah, that's interesting to know, and I love it because sometimes when you watch a game, you brought up a beautiful example, the screen pass. You can look at a game and see that a quarterback had a lot of a good completion percentage, completed a lot of passes, had a lot of yards. Then you go watch the game and it's screen passes left and right all over the place, and then you got to really ask yourself, well, how good of a quarterback is that really if that's always doing? So I love that you bring those variables into the situation because that's part of the game of football. Different plays require different skill sets, different things. And, stats do tell a story, but they don't tell the full story. So it sounds like PFF gets a little bit deeper into that story, and I love that. And obviously, college football, there's not a single grading system out there that's perfect. So well aware, right, of what that is. If you got somebody grading and they say their grades are perfect, I'd probably stop listening to them. So glad to hear you say that as too, man. There's always things that can change grades one way or the other, man. But again, excited to have you on here. Been watching. You guys been pretty high on Julian Sayin. Buckeye Nation pretty high on Julian Sayin. I said it, 85% adjusted completion percentage, the highest in the nation. I think now he's taken over the highest passing grade in the nation as well. You want to dive into that a little bit? Start with Julian Sayin, and then Ian, when he gets done, give us your thoughts on Julian Sayin.
Yeah, Julian Sayin, in my opinion, should be the Heisman frontrunner right now. I think he has been the best quarterback in college football. And you mentioned that adjusted completion rate. For anyone who doesn't know what that is basically your completion percentage plus any drops your receivers have. So basically, Julian Sayin has been on target for over 85% of his passes, which is a ludicrous number. And actually, his regular completion rate is 80%. If that holds, that would be easily the best completion rate of all time in college football. So we're talking about a guy that simply does not miss right now as a redshirt freshman. And I think this is going to be a lofty comparison. I'm not outright saying it's going to be as good as this player, but I think the conversation around Ohio State this year in their passing game specifically is very reminiscent to me, at least, of the 2019 LSU team, where it was Joe Burrow, it was Jamar Chase, it was Justin Jefferson, you got Julian Sayin, Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith. So many people are saying, oh, it's the receivers that make LSU great. So many people are saying, oh, it was Burrow that made those receivers great. So many people are saying Julian Sayin was making Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith so great. I think we know by now that they are superstars in themselves. What I'm trying to say is they're all great. Like this is what we're seeing, like historic stuff right now. And you see in the NFL now, Burrow, Chase, Jefferson, they're all individual superstars. I think you're seeing Julian Sayin, Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith, they're all individual superstars as well, which is why this Ohio State passing attack is so lethal right now. You have the best receiving core in college football. Combine that with the best quarterback in college football right now, in my opinion. That's a major reason why, along with the defense, of course, why I think Ohio State is the clear-cut favorite to win it all this year.
Ian, your thoughts on Julian Sayin, man, what he's doing this year?
Yeah, Dev, I second everything Max said. What strikes me about Julian Sayin, Max and Dev, is the fundamentals, the feet, the eyes stand downfield, how he moves in the pocket. As Max and Dev, you can attest to this. Tom Brady wasn't the most athletic quarterback, but he was athletic in the pocket, right? And he didn't lead. He made his offensive line look correct, even when the blocks aren't there. And so, a play that kind of epitomizes that is the throw to Carnell Tate, first drive against Wisconsin. You kind of subtly move in the pocket, eyes downfield, and you throw a ball on the rope. And so for me, it's the fundamentals, especially being a redshirt freshman, being able to keep the feet. And Ryan Day always talks about it. I pay attention to the quarterback's feet. Is he seeing what I'm seeing on the field, and is he explaining it in a way that the coaches are seeing it? Right. The pinpoint accuracy, not doing too much, knowing when to take the check downs. And so I think he's well on his way. I think the Buckeyes are giving him more and more as the season progresses, put more on his plate. I think he can handle it. And I like the comp. The 2019 Joe Burrow-led team, yes, Joe Burrow was pinpoint accurate, but it takes two, right? You have to have a cohesiveness between the receivers and the quarterback. And I think we have that. Carnell Tate has been a revelation. We all knew he was good, but I mean, this guy is amazing. And so, Julian Tate kind of bringing that to the forefront as well, it further strengthens the argument that this kid is different. So, no, I agree with everything Max said.
Yeah, I love Joe Burrow. So, not saying that's who Julian Sayin is, by the way. Let's make that clear. But there are things about these quarterbacks, the traits that they had. He is showing those type of traits. I love his footwork. And what I really love is you see the progression throughout this year, okay? The Texas game, obviously the coaches wanted to play it a little safe. I think the main goal there, hey, just don't turn the ball over. Compared to this last game at Wisconsin, it was very clear that they wanted to turn Julian Sayin loose a little bit. A lot of RPOs called, allowing Julian Sayin to read himself. That shows a lot of trust for the quarterback. We saw him keep a draw as well, which, man, I was beyond ecstatic for that. And you saw a lot of passes on the move. Offensive line didn't have the best game, and it caused Julian Sayin to have to adjust in the pocket some. And the pass to Brandon Ennis, a pass to Carnell Tate, there are several examples of Julian Sayin on the move, still throwing with pinpoint accuracy. 1,872 yards on the year at 80% completion, 19 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. 2 of those interceptions, I think one was a tip pass. The other was a young quarterback mistake. One of them was a bad throw, right? Just one of them. Wisconsin game, I only counted one bad throw. It was the one that J.J. Smith off the side that's pretty much a gimme for Ohio State these days. If they want 6 to 8 yards, throw it to Carnell on a curl, or J.J., on the curl comeback route onto the side. And it's pretty much a gimme for these guys. But overall, when you have a quarterback that's doing this, right, and you have receivers that we have, Max, I love you brought up LSU. We saw what that team could do with talent like that. Ohio State's able to do that. But the one thing about Ohio State, us fans anyway, we really like to we think there's a lot more potential there. The running game, right? The running game has given us some pause a little bit. I'll do another video diving into the run defenses that Buckeyes have played this year. They've actually played 4 top 25 run defenses already this year. I'm not sure what other teams have done that. So that's something to keep in mind. But still, this is Ohio State. They have more they can do, and they're still dominating. They're still looking amazing. That pass game can be super explosive, could be more explosive than what it is. Offensive line coming back, having some struggles there. But Max, overall, this Buckeyes offense, what impresses you the most? And then what's an area that you would love to see these Buckeyes be a little more dynamic in?
Yeah, so outside of the obvious of Julian Sayin and those 2 receivers, which I knew those 2 receivers would be outstanding. Carnell Tate, like you guys are right, has really come on and become the next first-round pick at Ohio State receivers, I believe, would be, 6 in the last 5 drafts they're going to have. And, of course, JJ will be next year too, which is just a completely ridiculous stat right there. I think the offensive line, because that was a major question mark for me going into the year, they've been really good. Actually, if you look at PFF.com, Ohio State right now is the 7th best run blocking grade as a team in the entire country right now. And I believe they're top 50 in pass blocking grade too. And you mentioned before, they played some legitimate defensive lines like Texas as well. So I think Ohio State's offensive line has really impressed me so far. As for what they can improve on, I think the run game is still young. I think that's how I would say it right now. I know Bo Jackson has been really awesome as a true freshman and showing a lot of encouraging signs as a true freshman, but I don't know if they have that true star running back just yet like they had last year. They had 2 superstar running backs, right? Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. So they don't have that this year. So, but I think, like I mentioned before, though, the offensive line is actually the best part of the run game. They're creating holes for those running backs, and it's why the run game has been good enough. And even those running backs right now, I believe it's like an average rushing grade overall in the year. So it's not like it's a glaring weakness right now for Ohio State. It's hard to find any glaring weakness on Ohio State right now. It's why they're the best team in the country, I think, by a good bit. But I would say right now that run game, specifically the running backs, is probably the one thing I would point to on that offense that isn't as elite as almost anything else.
Yeah. Dude, I love that. I love hearing a non-biased opinion of the Buckeyes, because if you ask an Ohio State fan, they're going to quickly answer, man, the running game and the offensive line with their run blocking is a glaring weakness. That's what they're going to say. And sometimes I lean more towards that as well. But the more film I watch and the more understanding of the defensives that we played, and with this passing attack, with what we're able to do there, I think I'm starting to lean more towards there. There is room for improvement, which I love. There's always going to be. There's not a team in the nation that doesn't have room for improvement. But I think we're a little better off than what, let's say, I thought yesterday. I watched a lot of film today, and hearing you say that as well as a non-biased person stepping back, looking at everything that comes into play with the run game, not doing too shabby, not as bad as what if you tune into a lot of Buckeye shows, it's run games crashing and burning to the ground. But, part of that I think is having Quinshawn and Trey last year and then going to this where we don't have a solid rotation yet. I mean, we are rotating in and out 4 running backs and 2 of them are freshmen. So we don't even have that solidified yet. But like you said, they're getting the job done. They're rushing. Their grades compared to a lot of other teams, they don't grade out, as bad. I think they're grading out better than even Alabama is, and that's another you want to compare offenses there. Something to keep in mind. Ian, thoughts on the offense for these Buckeyes? What impresses you, and what do you hope they get better at?
Yeah, so it was surprising and honestly kind of a relief to hear the grades our offensive line has for run blocking. As you alluded to, Dev, Buckeye Nation, we're kind of, on edge in terms of the running attack, especially being Ohio State and used to having a prolific running game. And what I wanted to ask you, Max, and as someone who does this for a living in terms of observing offenses and grading them, do you think it's more of a scheme thing with our running backs? Because I know we do a lot of gap running. And so I think when we got to the playoffs last year, especially against Tennessee and Oregon, we did a lot of zone running schemes. And I got Travion loose and to the boundary as well as Quinshawn. And so that's what I think it is. Because I was like you, I was starting to, look at film and see there's some holes there, right? And especially the left side of the line with Saraveld and Montgomery and Hinsman. And so, I would like your opinion on what you think maybe we switch up the scheme in the second half of the season.
Yeah, that could be it, because you made a great point right there, and that was a big talking point for Dalton and I during the playoff run last year, was that the run game was horrendous and it made no sense, right? And it was really the offensive line with so many injuries along the offensive line, obviously last year, and it's like it made no sense why you had Quinshawn and Travion and you could not run the ball in the regular season, and then all of a sudden in the playoffs it just clicked, right? And Dalton and I dove into it. And we're like, wait, they completely changed the scheme, right? It was completely different from what they've run all year. So I think that's a good point by you that maybe it's a part to do with that. I would almost attribute it more to the youth, though. I think, like I said, true freshman Bo Jackson, like he's been a great player so far. A 79 PFF grade so far as a true freshman is outstanding stuff. You want to see. He's still a young player, though, right? And I think, CJ Donaldson has been a solid number 2 back. We thought maybe he would be the number 1 back this year because he was pretty good at West Virginia. James Peoples has been, pretty solid for them this year, too. But I think it's just overall youth. And I think, Buckeye fans are probably getting used to not having, 2 guys who were taken in the second round of the draft in Quinshawn and Travion Henderson in the same year. I think, like I said, Bo Jackson's still a very young kid. I think it's a little bit of youth infused into why it's not been as good as maybe last year.
Gotcha. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So Buckeyes offense humming. I think we can all agree with Julian saying what these receivers are doing and what the offensive line is doing and has the potential to do. I think around the nation, it'd be hard to ask somebody and they answer no to this question, which is, do the Buckeyes have the offense to go back-to-back and win a national title? I think the answer is yes, especially with what Julian Sayin is able to do. He was a question preseason for a lot of the national media and some of the Buckeyes who knew he was going to be good, but there's nobody in the nation that knew he would do this.
Yeah.
And again, if somebody says they knew he was going to do it, they're just lying. But he's doing it. 80% completion. We've seen it with room to grow and also gaining trust from the coaches. Operating this high-powered offense is like getting behind a Ferrari for the first time. You got to learn how to keep that thing on the road, keep traction so you can get that speed going, because it's pretty wild what they're able to do. So any final thoughts on the offense, and we'll switch over and dive into this defense. Max, anything else to say on the offense?
Yeah, I think what I will say, and I'm sure Ohio State fans will love me saying this, they had a national title offense last year with a national title winning quarterback in Will Howard, who was outstanding. And I think they upgraded at quarterback, which is a scary, scary sight for the rest of college football right now. I think that Wisconsin game was a true indicator of what we might see in weeks to come, where they felt like, you guys are right, they gave him the keys finally to the Ferrari and said, all right, go drive it now. Like before, in the first few weeks, he was grading out very well. The rates were very well, but they weren't fully trusting him just yet. Like the Texas game specifically, they kind of like, okay, Julian, just don't mess it up. And to his credit, he did not mess it up in that game. Mm-hmm. Now it's feeling like, okay, we know we have something special now in Julian Sayin. We know we can open this up now with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. That in turn should help out the run game even more, because defenses have to now all of a sudden put more guys deep to cover this. It feels like we're starting to unlock this fully for Ohio State right now. And of course, it was Wisconsin who has struggled mightily this year in almost every single area. But it did feel like something clicked in that Wisconsin game right there. And if that's a sign of what's to come, and Julian Sayin is playing like that, like I said, I think he could be an upgrade over Will Howard, which is saying a lot for how good Will Howard was last year. And you have maybe the best quarterback in the country right now, and Julian Sayin with those receivers. I don't really care how good your run game is. If you have that quarterback and those receivers playing like that, you're probably going to win a lot of games, if not the entire thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's something to take a step back and realize as a Buckeye fan. It's like, okay, well, when our quarterback can go 36 for 42 throwing to these receivers, how good does our run game need to be?
Yeah.
And when you look at some of the catches, the catch Carnell Tate made, there were two people on him. So put two back if you want. You're going to put two on each receiver. And then we got young receivers like Quincy Porter, Mylan Graham, Bryson Rogers. We got other receivers that can come in, and also Max Clare, pretty good receiving tight end as well to throw in there. Ian, any final thoughts on the offense before we dive into the defense?
Nah, man, just wanted to, number one, give PFFs their flowers. We did a show earlier, Dev, and Dalton tweeted about a month ago that he thinks Julian Sayin is going to be the number one pick in 27. And so this isn't just recency bias from PFF. And I know he had a good game, and people might think the tweets may come and, the graphics and stuff, but they seen this early. And I think that's a testament to the work you guys put in terms of like just analyzing talent and kind of, taking in consideration like the eye test as well as the numbers. But I like to give y'all's flowers because y'all kind of been on this a little earlier than probably some of Buckeye Nation. Some of us had our reservations, but PFF called this, right? And I don't think it's an accident as well. So no, I wanted to throw that in there.
No, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, we did our midseason awards before the Wisconsin game. Actually, we actually had Julian Sayin as our midseason Davey O'Brien Award winner for best quarterback in the country. I know a lot of people were coming at me for that, and there's a lot of other great quarterbacks too that I could have gone with, like Ty Simpson, Diego Pavia has been awesome too. Fernando Mendoza's been great too. But I just, when I watched, like, so for example, this is what I like this the story I told Dawn a few days ago. So we have this thing at PFF called key plays, and what key plays are, and I mentioned the grading scale to you guys earlier in the show. Key plays are basically any play that is not a zero in our grading system. So any play that is a positive or a negative, right? So I was curious for saying, because I keep seeing his grades are outrageous, and I turned on his key plays to watch the tape back, and I swear it felt like a highlight reel. I was like, where are these negative plays I'm supposed to be seeing for this kid right now? There's like 95 key plays. I swear, like 80 of them probably were positive plays. Like it literally felt like I was watching a YouTube highlight reel of Julian Sayin. So it's just what that guy is doing right now. I think is getting not enough love. I think he should be the Heisman Trophy favorite as of right now. And just, I think in the fact he still has one more year of college ball at least left in him is a scary, scary sight right now. Like if we did a draft right now and every player in college football was eligible for the draft, I would say Julian Sayin might be the first quarterback taken in the draft and maybe the number one overall pick, although his teammate Jeremiah Smith might have something to say about that too.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. We're talking about a redshirt freshman here, right? Add all that into the equation, it just gets a little more crazy for you. Max, you might not know this, but I got it, and not because you're on the show. Me and Ian actually brought this up before the show, so props to you, Ian. But got to give you guys a shout out, man. In the Buckeye world, Buckeye fans, we know Ohio State is not – they don't put a lot of energy into promoting their players for awards, right? Specifically, this Julian Sayin and the Heisman, Jeremiah Smith, the Blitnikoff, and even the Heisman. They never really do that. So we really, as a Buckeye fan, it's really nice to see national outlets like yourself really talk about Julian Sayin like he deserves to be talked about. It's not that we're asking people to go above and beyond. So you guys have been a pretty big front runner there and putting his name out there and showing people, hey, he should be the Heisman leader right now. So Buckeye fans, you guys should give these guys huge props. If you haven't seen, go watch their channel, go watch their shows when they talk about Julian Sayin. That helps. We know the Heisman is voted on. We know those things matter. It's not just the play on the field. Unfortunately, with that, we've seen some picks over the past couple years. It's like, well, how do we come up with that outcome? But still, there's a lot to this. So mad shout out to you guys. Buckeye Nation should be very much appreciative of what you guys are doing for Julian Sayin in terms of the Heisman run and just pointing out straight facts, what he's doing. So
thank you, man. It means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah. So love to see that, man. But football isn't just offense, right? Defense. Last year, Buckeyes, #1 defense with Jim Knowles, even though the beginning of the year was a little bit shaky. We saw the Oregon game, saw a weakness in this defense with tempo and big shots down the field, really scared us. Buckeyes made a change, reeled it in, and was dominant the rest of the season. Then Jim Knowles leaves, right? You guys, Max, you guys came in and you took Jim Knowles from us as in Penn State. Came in, swooped in, took Jim Knowles, and we're like, okay, well, how do you upgrade from the #1 defense? Is it possible? Can we do it? Well, Ryan Day thought he had the answer, and Matt Patricia, about a 50-50 when the hire occurred with Buckeye fans, supporting that hire. A lot of people wanted to talk about his last NFL job as a head coach and really judge him based off of that. I was pretty excited. I had some people telling me that I trust to be excited, but I wasn't this excited. This Buckeyes defense, 4 drafted into the NFL. So particularly, you got a new coordinator, and then you had the defensive line. Those were the 2 worries. And in particular, the defensive line, when we look at your premium stats on your PFF website, which I encourage people to go subscribe to that. I'm subscribed to it. I am newly subscribed to it, and I get lost in it for hours. I love it. But you look at #1 and 2 on the highest graded defenders on this Buckeyes defense, and it's 2 defensive linemen, Caden Curry and Caden McDonald. So what Matt Patricia has been able to do with this defense, they're on a historic run right now. The defensive line, I don't know if Caden McDonald still holds the #1 run blocking spot in the nation per your grades or not, but he did when we talked to Dalton. Caden Curry, his pressures, his sacks, he wasn't a name talked about either. They call themselves the no-name defensive line. Literally, that's what the players call themselves. And then, of course, Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, and we have Caleb Downs as safety. And that's not, I'm not even mentioning all of them. So, Max, let's dive into this a little bit. Do you think we upgraded from the #1 defense last year? And there's a lot of football left to play. You're not judged till the end of the season, see what you're able to do. But as of right now, what's your thoughts on this defense, Max?
They might have. And the fact that I don't know if I can give you a definitive yes or no just yet, but the fact that the answer is they might have when they had that defense last year and all of those guys get drafted from that defense last year. I mean, they lost, 8 starters, I believe, that were all drafted in the NFL from that defense last year. It's nuts, man. You lost the defensive coordinator in Jim Knowles. He brought in Matt Patricia, and he's done, I would say right now, he is the Broyles Award winner, if I could give that out right now. What he's done with that defense has been outstanding. I mean, they're giving up, 7 points per game right now, and they played legitimate offenses like, of course, Washington and Texas and teams like that too. It's been unreal what they've done so far. And you're right. There is not a clear weakness right now because the defensive line that we were worried about when they lost all 4 starters, and all 4 starters from what I would say was the best defensive line in the country last year. And they replaced them with some guys like you mentioned, Caden Curry. Caden McDonald, you mentioned before, does still have the highest run defense grade in all of college football right now for D tackles. He's been amazing this year, and I would say he's probably an All-American type of player the way he's playing right now. The linebackers, Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese, both of them might be first-round picks the way they're playing right now. It's unreal what they're doing. And what I love about Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese is they are linebackers, but in like a name only, it almost feels like, because Reese is a linebacker who could also play edge rusher, because what he's doing on the edge this year for Ohio State is ridiculous. He legitimately, some of his reps as a pass rusher make you think he can maybe play edge too in the NFL. And then Sonny Styles is a converted safety from high school, right? And all of a sudden he's playing linebacker. So you have a guy in Arvell Reese who is so good downhill, where he's such a good pass rusher and such a good run defender. Maybe not as good in coverage, but Sonny Styles makes up for that because he is so good in coverage, right? So it's just these two guys work so well together. And then you have the best maybe defensive player in the country behind them and Caleb Downs too. And then obviously Davis Igbinosun's a very good corner. You have a young kid in Devin Sanchez, who I'm very excited about too, at the other corner spot. And obviously a bunch of other players too that I'm very excited about in that defense. But yeah, it's just unreal. It's crazy that we spent that entire first half of the show talking about the offense and maybe a Heisman Trophy winner and Julian Sayin, who I think should be the Heisman favorite right now, and the best receiving core in the country, and an offensive line that's playing great. And then, the best defense in college football right now. Like, it's just the complete team that Ohio State has right now makes me think they're going to be very, very, very difficult to beat at all, I think, this year.
Yeah, it is. When you're an Ohio State fan, you sit there and talk about, how many times this year I've sat back and I'm like, dude, are my scarlet glasses on? Am I being biased here? Am I being a crazy fan? And dude, I mean, even when I talk to people like yourself and other people, it's like at this point in time, if you are not hip to what Ohio State is doing, and to me, I don't know if it's just bias or not. You guys can maybe chirp in a little bit, but I think as of right now, not that it even matters. It doesn't matter right now who the best team in the nation is. It does not, point blank, period. But I don't know there's much of an argument. Ohio State is looking like the best team in the nation. Of course, Indiana is there as well, Alabama, but Alabama lost to FSU. And Indiana, it's just hard to get over their Indiana. And then we had the same vibes about Indiana last year, and we saw what happened when they came into the horseshoe. So you got that as well. And the talent differentiation there is just like, man, that's a big gap to try to overcome. Right. When both teams are coached so well, they execute so well, where's the difference? Talent. That's where the difference is. And you'll see that in the upcoming draft, where the difference is between an Ohio State and Indiana team. But either way, this offense, defense, it's kind of wild to talk about it. Ian, your overall thoughts on the defense this year so far?
Yeah, man, Max described it perfectly. I know Dev and I, we've had many conversations about kind of what we see on that side of the ball. I will say, with all the athletic attributes that we discuss with just the super freaks like Reese and Styles and, Caden Curry just having the motor of, a 67 Chevy, right? We failed to, and I know Max spoke about this on his show and you as well, Dev, but the IQ of these players, man, the IQ kind of that seals the deal where, they don't get lost in space to tackle the fundamentals in terms of tackling and not missing assignments and, sound fundamental football. I think someone like Matt Patricia is able to come in and within 6 months implement a scheme where these guys got it down to a T and, run multiple fronts and stunt blitzes and give different quarterbacks different looks. I think that only happens if you have a smart football team. You know what I'm saying? In addition to the athletic ability. And so I think as the season goes along, and Max mentioned something that was poignant, Reese does struggle in coverage. And that's something that's kind of been on tape, but he's a first-year player. And we talked about this as well. So with experience is going to come growth. And I think as good as they are now, we're kind of not going to see the best version of this football team until around, the Michigan game and on into the playoffs. And that can get scary as well. So that's kind of what I see is the IQ of the players, man. It's not talked about enough, except, some of the experts. But to me, that's what stands out the most when I watch this defense.
Yeah, Ian, you make a great point. I just want to say real quick that I think that IQ thing is so important. And I think it all stems from Caleb Downs. I mean, that guy is truly like the rover. And you saw it last year too. Like Jim Knowles just put that guy wherever he wanted, and he could make his defense however else he wants with Caleb Downs on the field. And that guy he's the true leader of that entire team at this point. And that guy, the IQ, yes, the physical talent for Caleb Downs is unbelievable. Why I think Caleb Downs is truly a once in a generation safety. That guy's IQ is off the charts, and he can play slot corner for you. He can play even kind of linebacker for you. He can play free safety for you. That doesn't happen unless you're the most brilliant player on the field. And I think Caleb Downs, I think it's a great point you made by the IQ of all the players. And I think it all starts with their leader of that defense, Caleb Downs.
100%. Good point, Max.
Yeah. One of the biggest, for me anyway, there's so many things you can talk about with Caleb Downs, but there's another factor here that is not a lot of people talk about that I think really shows how smart of a player Caleb Downs is, and that's how well his counterpart is playing in Jalen McLean, a sophomore on the field. You wonder, how is this dude able to come out, be the highest rated coverage, player on the team as a sophomore, being a safety at Ohio State? man, Matt Patricia doing a wonderful job. Obviously, Matty G, the safety coach, well, but Caleb Downs. He plays beside Caleb Downs. When you listen to him in his player interviews and you talk to him as well, he'll tell you, man, it's awesome to watch film with Caleb Downs. It's awesome to be around Caleb Downs. It's awesome to watch him. And when you hear Ryan Day talk about this defense as well, most of the time he's mentioning two names. The first one is Caleb Downs. The second one is Sonny Styles. Why? Because of their IQ, their ability to call out the plays pre-snap and let the rest of the defense know they're leaders on the field. That's what makes up good football teams, are the players leading the team on the field. If that's going on and they're having, a high percentage of success like this Buckeyes defense is right now, it's because you're surrounded by some players that know some football, and they're being coached good as well. So same question to you guys again as the offense. With everything we can talk about the defense, Arvell Reese, defensive line, Caleb Downs, pick one. Most impressive thing about this defense, and if you're able to, one area that you want to see this Buckeyes defense get better in, if you can find one.
Yeah, the most impressive. Most impressive, I would probably overall is probably the linebackers. Like I said, both those guys are probably gonna be first round picks this year. The way that those two are playing, but really most impressive to me is the defensive line, because like I said, the offensive line, like I said before, the expectations for them were not very high going into we knew they had talent, but it was okay. Can they put it together and have a great year and be almost as good as last year? And they've been just that this year. Weakness, it's hard. I mean, listen, they're averaging 7 points allowed per game. I think their corners are good. I don't think they're elite. Like I think Igbenos is a very good corner. I think Jermaine Matthews is a very good corner. I don't know if they have a true shutdown number one corner right now. But like I said, when you have those safeties, you have the best safety in the country in Caleb Downs, and you have those linebackers to help out too, and then a defensive line that can get after the passer very, very quickly. You don't need a lockdown number one corner. But, I mean, if you're going to find one maybe weakness on this defense, which I don't think they have a weakness right now, I would say that their corners are good, not great.
Yeah, that's a good sign when you're forced to pick a weakness on a team, and you're saying it like you kind of don't really want to say it, but you got to say it. So I love to see that. Ian, your thoughts, same question to you.
Yeah, man, to watch these linebackers in action, Reese and Sonny Styles cover the ground they cover, make the tackles, and rush the quarterback like they do. I would have to go with the linebackers as well. Max, he took it right from me, man. Jermaine Matthews and Igbenos, and like Max said, they're good players, right? They play for Ohio State. So that says enough. But I want to see what happens when we come up against an elite receiver with those two. Igbenos had some penalty issues last year, and those haven't reared their ugly head. But we saw Parker Livingstone, and that was the first game against Texas, and he got loose on us in that fourth quarter. And he's a B-level receiver. But I want to see when we go against a Surratt from Indiana, right, or some of these other receivers out there, Jermaine, the guy from Alabama, Ryan Williams, and Jermaine. Yeah, exactly. When we go against that caliber of receiver, that's when you see what type of corners you have. And unfortunately, we won't see them until that time. And so that remains a question for me. I expect them to be able to kind of rise to the occasion. But right now, that's kind of in the back of my mind is if they can or not. But, that's pretty much it for me in terms of weaknesses.
Yeah. And obviously, depending on your personal experience, your personal preference, everybody's going to have different answers. For me, coming into the season, I was very high on the defensive line, but I think overall, a lot of people had a lot of questions there, rightfully so, okay? Kenyatta Jackson was probably the first name you're going to bring up on the defensive line, and K-Mac as well. We knew we had those two guys, but is Edric going to step up? Is Bo Atkins going to step up? Is Caden Curry going to step up? And then more importantly, where's the depth behind him? Well, come to find out, Caden Curry is one of the most productive defensive linemen that we have on the team. And Tywan Malone has stepped up in a way and had his best two games, the previous two games as well. So the depth there with Will Smith Jr. So for me, out of all the impressive groups, it's because of where my expectations were and then what this defensive line is putting on tape this year. Super impressive to me. So I'm going to stick with the defensive line. And for me, I just got to go with the eye test. Not that Illinois, they scored 16 points on us, and I really didn't agree with the coach's comments after the game about tempo was knife through butter. But tempo did affect the defense a little bit, made us stick in our base looks, didn't give to do all those crazy looks Matt Patricia likes to do, throw quarterbacks off. So I'm interested to see what happens when we come up against another team that has a quarterback that's capable of doing that, because not a lot of teams are capable of doing that. To go tempo like that, you got to have a pretty good quarterback, and Illinois had a pretty good quarterback to do that. So the tempo is what I want to see this defense get a little better at. I have no doubt. Like, I'm not sure why you would doubt that Matt Patricia probably had a plan before he stepped on the bus. Matter of fact, I know he did. I talked to some people inside the Woody about, the plans that they're putting forward for teams that want to run tempo. But, man, it's really good to be a Buckeye right now. But when you take a step back and you look at the national landscape, right, a place like Ohio State, last year, we heard a lot of natty or bust. This year, it's kind of like a little house money is the way I thought it. I didn't think natty or bust this year. But preseason, I did think Penn State, watch out. They're going to be pretty good. Texas, first game of the season. That's going to test our team. Let's watch out. Clemson, Cade Klubnik, he's a very good quarterback, bringing back a lot of players as well. But, man, has college football changed. You never know what's going to happen. The landscape has changed. Teams are changed. We thought FSU was going to be dominant. They beat Alabama. Nope, we're wrong. So everything changes so fast. So when you look at this, it really matters which team is playing their best football in the playoffs. So a lot can change. But as of right now, through, 7, 8 weeks of college football, when you look at the national landscape, some of these other teams, what are some teams that you think can compete with Ohio State based off what you've seen right now? Vegas has Ohio State at like plus 275 to win the national title. The number 2 is plus 600. That's a pretty big difference with my experience with that stuff. Not that matters at all. But, Max, when you look at the landscape here, which teams are you looking at that you think can give a Buckeyes a run for their money?
Yeah, I think it's hard because I do think Ohio State is pretty clearly the best team in the country right now. But I think Indiana has really impressed me this year. Now, like you mentioned before, do they have the talent level to compete with Ohio State, who's similarly well coached as them? That remains to be seen. But Indiana right now, according to our grading system, is actually the highest graded team in college football. They've been really dominant so far, and I've been really impressed by them. I don't know if they beat Ohio State, but that remains to be seen. I think Alabama has a lot of talent too. They play really well, but like you mentioned before, that Florida State game exposed some weaknesses on Alabama. They do have some pretty clear weaknesses in their team right now. I think their pass rush has not really been there. It got a little bit better this past weekend against Tennessee, but overall it's been a problem with them. But Alabama's got a Heisman hopeful quarterback as well in Ty Simpson, an outstanding receiving core, an outstanding offensive line, and a defense overall that's still really, really good. So I'll put Bama up there too. A&M has impressed me so far. They have some dangerous weapons on the outside and a good offensive line. I don't know if I trust Marcel Reed all the way to lead them to the promised land just yet. They have a good defense too, but A&M certainly up there as the only undefeated team left in the SEC. Oregon is probably could maybe give a run for their money too. Oregon's looked pretty solid this year, but it's really hard for me right now. Like I think Bama is the big one for me. I think maybe Miami too. Miami has the trenches that can maybe compete with Ohio State, and if you win in the trenches, you can win any game essentially. We'll see if they can actually do it with Carson Beck though. But like I said, I think Ohio State is pretty clearly the best team in the country right now, and at this point, it'd be a pretty big surprise to me if they don't repeat as national champs this year.
Yeah. Ian, your thoughts, national landscape.
Yeah, man. So I have a dark horse, man, and I was watching them against USC. Notre Dame is a good football team, man. We've beaten them so many times that a part of me just doesn't want to play them because at some point your luck runs out in terms of just beating a team over and over. Marcus Freeman did play for us. He's pretty connected to kind of the things we do here, but man, Jeremiah Love and the two-headed running back that they have, man, that's a dude right there, man. He is going to play on Sundays for a long time. CJ Carr, their quarterback, he had a bad game, but he's actually been pretty solid this year. The receiving core is decent, but it's just something about Notre Dame, man, and how Marcus Freeman has put that team together that just they give me a little bit of uneasiness in terms of matching up with them in the playoffs, and especially just that running game. Right, that you can lean on that. So them and then Texas A&M as well. Miami and Alabama will probably round it out for me. Alabama probably being the one that gives me the most concern in terms of who we match up with. Again, their receiving core is ridiculous, and it's like 3 or 4 of them too, right? Not too good at running the ball, but they have probably a top 5 pick at quarterback, leading the team. Ty Simpson, who can just put NFL throw after NFL throw on the field, similar to Julian Sayin, to be honest. Same height, same build, a little bit thicker, right? But his arm talent is off the hook. So, those are probably Alabama being the one that would be a test for us in my eyes.
Yeah, it sounds like we're all on the same page. Preseason, man, I dove into. I'm pretty big in the recruiting, so not that I put everything on recruiting rankings, but when you dive into the blue chip ratio, Ohio State had an 89% blue chip ratio. They were tied with a team. That team was Alabama, right? We watched them play FSU, and you think, oh no, right? But then they come out and play the way they're playing now. That would be my number one team. Obviously, I'd question the consistency there. If they show up and play their best game and Ohio State plays their best game, I think it can be a competitive game. Ohio State's been the more consistent team, but that's football. It matters who plays the best in the playoffs. We watched the Buckeye team did last year. They were not the most consistent team last year. Lost a game they should not have lost. They went out to Autzen and lost a heartbreaker as well, and they walked away with the national title. So, man, I know when asking this question, it's like, dude, man, Ohio State can look like the best team right now, but you never know what's going to happen in the playoffs.
Correct.
Sometimes it's one call, the ball rolls one way, one pass, one play can change everything. So I'm excited to see what happens this year. It's really cool to see the success of Indiana. I am one that's a fan of it. I would put them like 3rd or 4th on my list of concern when we play them, but I explained my reason for that earlier. Notre Dame's one to keep an eye on. Georgia's another one I keep my eye on just because they have that championship DNA in them, and you've watched them so many times this year just look like a bad team. Then you turn the game back on and they're winning the game. It's like, what the heck is going on right now? How do they do this? Come back from behind. So great to be a Buckeye, man. Got to finish this thing strong. It's a young team. Luckily, we have Ryan Day, a lot of NFL coaching experience. When you look at Ohio State, you see the amount of play calls they have. They're like ranked 128th in the nation for play calling, and it's aggravating to watch as a fan sometime. But then you look at the length of the season and the fact that Ryan Day's the only coach that have successfully navigated this new playoff thing. So you just got to trust what he's doing with his team, his ability to limit the snaps, hold players back for some practices, because it's a long season, right? We want these players to be playing the best in the playoffs. So great to be a Buckeye, man. Favorite to win the national title now. A lot of things can change. Ian, Max, absolutely amazing show. Max, especially having you on, dude, and Dalton on. Love your guys' show. Buckeye fans, got to go check them out, man. Now's the time to do it, because it could change. Next year, they might not have good things to say about Ohio State. You never know, dude. You never know.
If Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith are still there, we'll probably have a lot of good things to say about them. So, okay. Yeah.
Cool, man. But, yeah, Max, you got any final words for Buckeye Nation, anybody else watching the show?
Yeah, I appreciate it. If you want to check us out, like you mentioned before, the PFF College Football Show is on YouTube, anywhere you get your podcast, too. And if you want to follow me on Twitter or X, wherever we're calling it, it's at CFB Max Chadwick.
Yeah, go give him a follow, man. We got a super chat from Ryan Coolidge. Thank you so much, brother, for the $19.99. You guys are doing great. Always appreciate your insight. Of course, Sayin is throwing 80%. Look who he's throwing to. Look who he's playing. Drives me crazy. Easily the most accurate passer in a long time. Yeah, we hear that. We get that a lot with Ohio State. I don't know why. That is one thing I forgot to ask you about, Max. Maybe you can hit on a little bit. Sorry, I didn't want to keep you this long, but you see, like the Washington game, for instance, the national media was, watch out, right? Washington can beat Ohio State. And then Ohio State does that. And then everybody's, well, Washington's not really that good of a team. Well, at least that's how I view it as a Buckeye fan, because that makes me the most mad at the people doing it. Now, whether that's reality or not, you being non-biased, do you see that happening with the Buckeyes, or do you think I'm just wanting it to happen too much?
No, I think you're right. I think there is sometimes an unfair, whenever someone kills another team, a lot of people try to be pessimistic about it and say, well, that team just wasn't very good, instead of trying to give the flowers to the team that dominated them, right? So I think it does happen sometimes. I don't think Ohio State has had a cupcake schedule so far, right? They played Texas. They played like you mentioned before, they played Washington, and they beat them pretty soundly. They played Illinois, who I think right now is a top 20 team in the country still. Illinois is still fighting for a playoff spot right now, right? So, I think to say that they played a cupcake schedule so far is not very genuine. I think obviously it hasn't been as difficult as Alabama's, for example, where Bama's played 4 straight top 20 teams to start the last 4 weeks, I should say, and beaten all 4 of those top 20 teams. So I don't think it's been that difficult. But I do think, Ohio State's played a hard enough schedule that we can give them their flowers for looking this good on offense and defense.
Yeah, for sure. And, Texas, it's not our fault. They're not playing up to the level that they would. We had them on the schedule. And I'm sorry, but Penn State as well. You know what I'm saying? They're on the schedule. This was supposed to be a huge game, and not like it's going to be a cakewalk now, but it's not the expectation that we expected. I can't believe I just said that. But Ian, anyway, your final thoughts on the show, brother.
Yeah, I want to thank you for having me on again, Dev. Quick story, Max. This is like my 4th podcast, and so I'm kind of new to this, so I'm just kind of getting everything and learning the lay of the land. I watched PFF football show all through the playoffs last year, and I know you guys are gearing up to kind of for that heavy end of the season run, man. So the great content you guys put out, that helps me kind of with my football knowledge, and it helps me to see what I'm looking at sometimes. So again, I appreciate you coming on and having a solid conversation with us, brother.
No, it really means the world, man. Thank you very much. And yeah, you guys are killing it right now. I've seen some of your stuff in the past. I watched the episode with Dalton, obviously, and both of you guys are doing an awesome job with this too. So I appreciate you guys having me on, and hopefully we get to talk more Ohio State Buckeyes very soon.
Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Max, appreciate you joining us. Buckeye fans, go check that show out. Go check Max out on Twitter. Dalton as well. Great dudes, a lot of insight there. Dive into the PFF a little bit. I encourage you to do that. It's very interesting. Gives you a lot of insight into the game, and I'm getting more it's becoming more popular, and I'm liking it more and more every time I dive into it. So on that note, guys, we appreciate you for joining the show and the chat. Hit the like button on your way out if you haven't already. Appreciate the support and the super chats. On that note, we'll see if Max gives us an IO, but go Buckeyes. OH.
IO, he can't do it. He can't do it.
That's all right. That's all right.
Never.
We can't hate you for that.
Just like we can't do the we are, man. We can't
no,
do
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I hope you guys can appreciate that.
All right,
yeah. Hey, stay blessed, y'all. All right, Max. Hey, dude, we appreciate you, bro.